Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, and today we're going to show Sarah Ingham up for just how naughty she has been recently and what an horrible human being she actually is, and also how much of a deluded, ignorant businesswoman she actually is too. She thinks it's funny, she thinks she knows what she's talking about. Sarah, I promise you, by the end of this video, you are going to be thinking, hang on a second, what the hell have I done? What have I become? And everybody else, by the end of this video, you're going to see just why, or you're going to wonder why you ever liked Sarah in the first place. Shall we get into it, shall we? So, on Facebook, over on her Facebook, somebody posted this. I guess it was a shopping related post or something, and this person, Chris, has replied to it and said, addicted to shopping but still can't afford to pay their over 100k tax bill that they are trying to write off. Definitely screams 10k a day. And the guy's got a point. If you don't know, Chris and Sarah owe £130,000 to the taxman, and just decided not to pay it one day and close down their business. Yes, that is a thing. You can do it. You can get away with it. But in the Ingham's case, it may be a little bit more complicated. So bear that in mind. This person, Rochelle, replied because she doesn't believe a word anything the haters say. If you knew anything, you'd know that they shut down that business and legally did nothing wrong about it. Some of you trolls really enjoy reaching, don't you? Well, Rochelle, I am here to tell you that you are talking a load of rubbish. If you're listening to Sarah's take on business, then please don't. I promise you, if you listen to Sarah's take on anything, it's not usually done with an ounce of knowledge, right? If Sarah's talking about something, usually it's maybe come from Chris. And Chris, let's be real, is trying to hide all his financial affairs, and other affairs too, probably. But just don't take Sarah's word for it. Chris Davies replied, yes, owing the British government over £130,000. And Rochelle replied to that, legally no. When they went insolvent on their limited business, any debt was wiped. They don't need or don't have to pay anything. You're like to say the taxman will come for them, but it won't happen. I'm guessing, Rochelle, that you're from the United States of America. Is that correct? Not that you shouldn't have a view or an opinion if you're from that particular country, but over in the UK, the laws may be out with your knowledge. And yes, you are right that for the most part, if you close your business down, right, any debts with it can just be wiped. If you can't afford to pay, if your company is insolvent, if your company has no money to pay, then they can't pay. However, in the case of this, where it's the HMRC that are due the money, laws can slightly differ, right? It can differ. And we're going to get into it a little bit later on, but I think you are reaching just ever so slightly in thinking that the Inghams have done nothing wrong. Choosing not to pay £130,000 to the UK government is a big deal. It's not just a smallie. It's not just a little bit of a deal. It is a huge deal. It's £130,000. It's not just pocket change, is it? You know, they chose not to pay it when they could pay it. That is the problem that they have. You're like to say the taxman will come for them, but it won't happen. They made sure to fail-safe the house, cars, etc. I don't care if you believe it or not, but Chris isn't a stupid man. He knows what he's doing. What do you mean hang on. What do you know that we don't? They made sure to fail-safe the house and the cars. Okay, tell me more. Do tell me more. What do you mean exactly? The cars are registered with the business. Okay. If the cars are registered with the business, then that's an asset of the business and will be seized as such. Unless you mean that they have transferred the cars to to personal people. Like friends or family and things, which could then raise suspicions if they've done that, because that's avoiding or hiding assets, which doesn't go down too well when they're being investigated for this. The house, though, I believe that they've taken out a second mortgage on the house, so that's not really fail-safing it, is it? That's their house getting into more and more debt. So it may not be a company liability, but a personal one, and it's going to be really, really difficult for them to carry on as they are. Chris replied, yes, so built up a load of debt that they can't afford to pay. Rochelle was back on it with, no one said they couldn't afford it. Long. Well, yes, I think it's implied that they can't afford it, Rochelle, because they didn't pay it. Therefore, they couldn't afford it. If they could afford it, they'd pay it, right? Because if they didn't pay it when they could afford it, would that not be tax avoidance or something, right? I'm not a tax man, but it would come under avoiding tax, which again is another issue which they're going to face when being investigated, because believe me, they are being investigated. It's not closed down yet, it's not finished yet. Chris replied, I'll await to be blocked, as they like to hide from the true facts. But he didn't get blocked. It got so much worse for our Chris Davies, our hero of the piece. Claire weighed in with, why are you on this page if you are only going to slight them? Oh, never heard that one before. The Inghams got back in it though. This is Sarah, obviously, because it's her page. She said to Chris, Long! Tell me you have no idea how businesses work without telling me. We have 0 debts that are owed by us. Wow. So this is Sarah, although I suspect it could be Chris, judging by the long, right? But we're assuming that it's Sarah because it's her page. So Sarah is claiming that this person, Chris Davies, does not have any knowledge on how businesses work. The thing is that everybody else has knowledge about how businesses work, but Sarah doesn't. And yet she is just going around in circles saying, we have 0 debts, we have 0 debts, we have 0 debts, we have 0 debts. It's like, yeah, we know the business is closed down and you think that the debts are not liable to you because you have closed the business down, right? Is that what you think? Oh dear. Oh dearie me. You could be in for a big shock here, Sarah. I feel like there's a shock looming. Chris Davies replied with, check out Company's House. It does not lie. You must be deluded if you think you don't owe any money. He's funny. Exactly. Check out Company's House for yourself. Check it out for yourself, Sarah. Stop believing everything that Chris says to you. Honestly. So Sarah replied, I'll say it again. You clearly have no idea how businesses work. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, nobody else knows, do they? Sarah does, though. She has all the knowledge. Okay, so for the very first time, Sarah actually lets something slip here. So she knows, right? She knows a little bit more than she's letting on, but she's still wrong, right? She says, why would we pay any money that we aren't liable to pay? just for the sake of it. Like, are you okay? So what she's saying here is very telling. Why would we pay any money that we aren't liable to pay? So she knows that they have debts in the company. Well, she'd have to be stupid if she didn't. But she knows that there's debts, but she doesn't think they are liable to pay it. That is the key, right? She's assuming that they're not liable because the company's closed down, they've done it legitimately, and those debts can be wiped away. That's why, by the way, that's the reason why they decided to, close the company down, is because they wanted to wipe away those debts. But sadly, it's not quite that straightforward. She thinks it is, but it's not. Chris Davies replies with, "You are not individually, no. You are correct, but as a company you are. Your morals mustn't be as strong as others." So Chris here is saying basically that they don't have to pay it, but they should be paying it morally. But there you go. Andrea Mackenzie, I haven't heard that name for a long time, has weighed in with, "You got proof then? You got proof then? Have you got proof?" "Yes, we have proof. It's all over the friggin' internet." Chris Davies replies, "Just look up on company's house. Simple." These Ingham people, right? They're like, "What you talking about? Have you got proof? Where's this evidence that you've got? Why are you just spouting shit about the Inghams?" It's not just crap though. It's not just us talking. It's on the internet through readily available sources, right? That's all that I can say. Now it gets very interesting indeed. Sarah, she's not letting up here, is she? She knows that she's right, and this is harassment that she thinks she's going on. Somebody's come onto her page and dare say, "You should be paying your tax debts, you should be." And Sarah's response to that is, oh my god, unbelievable. She says, "Hey Chris, I don't need to block you, but I did just send screenshot proof of all your harassing comments on this page to your listed employers. Let's see what your bosses think and who's blocking who, shall we?" Dear me, that's hilarious. So she shows a screenshot then of I guess Chris Davies's employers. This is embarrassing, Sarah. I'm genuinely embarrassed for you. So Chris Davies comes onto your page and says you should be paying your debts, your tax, should be paying your tax, and you send these screenshots to his employers, and his employers will be like, "What the actual fuck, Chris? Why are we getting screenshots of some crazy lady who owes £130,000 to the UK government and is refusing to pay? Why are they sending us screenshots of this evidence? What's going on, Chris?" And then Chris will tell his bosses what's going on, and they'll have a good old laugh over a cup of coffee, chai latte maybe in the morning, right? But for Sarah to actually do that is just embarrassing. It's really, really bad. I know the iFan will be like, "Oh, good one, Sarah. That was hilarious what you did. All these people, they do this to you, so you did it back to them. That's hilarious, that is." Oh, dearie me, I can imagine Carol just having a good old laugh about that. A belly laugh it would be, I reckon. So hilarious. Now, shall we go through a little bit of facts, Sarah, since you are very much big on the legalities of things, right? So what we're looking at here is your company in a whole load of problems. You thought that by closing it down and and liquidating it, it would all go away. Because that's what sometimes can happen if a company is in debt or can't afford to pay its debts. Then it has to be liquidated, wound up, and unfortunately people lose out, although liquidators try to get as much money out of the company in order to pay creditors back. So just when you are liquidating a company, not automatically all the debts are wiped. Whatever assets or money is within the company still, you would have to use, well, they would take that money and they would seize the money and pay off the creditors, which is fair, right? And also, in some cases, like if you've moved money, which I suspect you did before you closed it down, if you moved money out of the bank account, they would look at that and think that that's a little bit suspicious. If you've sold assets immediately before liquidating the company, that is very suspicious too. If you have moved or transferred assets into other people's names immediately before closing down the company, then that's also very suspicious, right? So what the Ingham family limited owed. So these are the creditors at the time of the liquidation. One was the bounce back loan, HMRC, and another random one which was capital on tap, which is obviously some loan that they took out or credit card or something along those lines. So the amounts that they owe each individuals are: the bounce back loan was £30,000, HMRC 91,000, and capital on tap £15,000. Now the total amount that they owe is an absolute whopping £137,000. So £137, and of which 121,000 of that is to the government, which is a bit of a problem because the government are typically more aggressive in their recovery methods, and they have the ability to try and take the money back if you if they want to. It depends how much they want the money back, and that's a lot of money. Let's be real, it is a lot of money. So what's the deal here? There's £121,000. Sarah Ingham is saying that they're not liable for it because they closed down the business, and with it went all the debts. So let's have a look at one or two facts, shall we? So let's look at the bounce back loan situation. Even though the general position protects directors from personal liability for BBL debts, there are important exceptions. If any of these apply, you may face personal liability or other consequences. Firstly, misuse of the loan funds. If the BBL funds were not used to provide an economic benefit to the company, for example, used for personal expenses, director's salary beyond allowable, buying a car for personal use, repaying a personal loan, then the protections may be lost. Now this is important, if the loan was obtained fraudulently, e.g. misstating turnover or eligibility, then personal liability is highly likely. Chris, can you say for absolute 100% certain that you took that loan of £30,000 legitimately without telling a porky or two? Because as far as I remember it, the bounce back loans were intended for companies who basically had to, struggle through lockdown and things like that, or maybe had to, basically it was for situations where companies were struggling because of COVID. Do you remember COVID, the thing that you didn't think existed? Yeah. That, right? And You didn't, though. You just carried on as normal. You put out vlogs as normal. You basically, COVID did not affect your business whatsoever, not even in the slightest. And a bounce back loan was intended for those who were struggling and needed a bit of extra help. You did not. So what did you put on that form, Chris? So if you fraudulently took out that loan, which I strongly suggest you probably did, then they may be coming for you, right? The second one is wrongful trading or trading while insolvent. In the run-up to an insolvency, if the director continues to trade for the benefit of shareholders rather than creditors, or fail to act in the creditor's best interest, then liabilities, including BBL debt, may result in personal claims. For example, through misfeasance by a liquidator. So basically, if you have been trading for your benefit rather than in order to pay your creditors back, that could also make you liable. Right, so now we move on to the HMRC £91,000 debt, right? When HMRC can pursue you personally, you may become personally liable if certain criteria are met. Some of the key ones are if you have deliberately or negligently failed to deduct or pay taxes, for example, PAYE and NICs, right? So you do have some PAYE outstanding, I noticed, on your little debt form thingy, right? £660, I think it was, something like that. So that has to be paid. If the company enters insolvency and HMRC issues a joint and several liability notice under the Finance Act 2020, making you personally liable for the company's tax debt in certain specified circumstances, such as avoidance, repeated insolvency, or Phoenix activity. We're going to come back to that in a second, even before the company becomes insolvent. At the bottom here, it says, if you pay other creditors or yourself rather than meet tax obligations, especially when insolvency is looming, this can increase the risk. So basically, if you think that insolvency is on its way, which you must have done, and you continue to pay yourself instead of HMRC, then they won't look upon that too well, right? And you may become liable for that money. Now, let's move on to phoenixing. This is one which you might find very interesting, Sarah. So let's talk about phoenixing, shall we, for a second? I feel like this may be the ultimate downfall and the thing that Sarah, you may have well overlooked in your little process of closing down the company and avoiding all your tax liabilities. Right, the concept of phoenixing, also known as phoenix trading or phoenix companies, under UK law refers to a situation where a company goes into insolvency, liquidation, or is wound up, leaving debts unpaid, and then essentially the same business or structurally similar business is carried on again by the same directors or connected parties through a new company. So basically, does that sound very similar to what you've done, Sarah? Does it sound similar? All right, you've closed down your business with debts unpaid, and then reopened it or carried on trading in Dubai, right? With the exact same business. Well, it's essentially exactly the same. I mean, you can't even say it's similar, right? It's exactly the same. Even the same name you're carrying, right? You're doing the same business, the same people, etc. It is exactly the same. So I feel like this may apply in this situation. So what the UK law says, or what the law says, the UK guidance from the Insolvency Service states that a company that was insolvent and whose business is essentially transferred or restarted by the same people may trigger investigation for Phoenix activity. I feel like that might apply in this situation, just a smidge. The briefing from the UK Parliament Library clarifies that while it is not illegal simply to start a new company following the liquidation of another, if the directors acted improperly, for example, asset stripping, does that sound similar? Trading while insolvent, again, leaving creditors unpaid, again, Sarah, does any of this strike as being true for you? They may face personal liability, disqualification, or claims under the Insolvency Act 1986, for example, wrongful trading, fraudulent trading. Does any of this sound at all similar? At all? The key rules include a director who was involved in the old company within the 12 months before its liquidation may not use the same or very similar company without court leave. The fact that a business is restarted in a new company is not in itself unlawful, provided everything has been conducted properly and not for the purpose of avoiding the original company liabilities. So basically, you can start a new company as long as it's not purely to avoid the liabilities of the old company. So if you thought that moving a company overseas would basically stop this or not apply this phoenixing, right? You'd be wrong. What happens when moving the company overseas? When a company or its directors try to carry on the business outside the UK or move business activities overseas after the UK company has been wound up or is insolvent, the risk of being caught by Phoenix-related rules depends on the facts, whether the new business is essentially the same business, whether the same people are involved, whether debts were deliberately left behind, whether the move is being used to avoid UK creditors. All of the above, Sarah. The UK guidance says the powers of investigation by the Insolvency Service apply to companies and directors where a company is registered in England, Wales or Scotland or has sufficient connection to England, Wales or Scotland, even if it is not registered here. So you do a lot of work in the UK still, don't you? You do. I know you do. You come home every few months to say hello to Prinny and things like that. And yeah, it does apply. It still applies. So I feel like this phoenixing could be your downfall, ultimately. Now we're going to look at something slightly different on here, and something I haven't really discussed too much about, because to be honest with you, I don't know an awful lot about it, but I have been having a look into it just now. And it feels like this is something that Chris may have overlooked too. I don't know. Maybe Sarah's overlooked it. Maybe both of them or neither of them care. So this is the assets of the company, not the debts, not the creditors, but the assets, the money that the company currently has in their possession. And there's not many assets registered here, camera equipment, office equipment, but very, very interestingly, right at the very bottom there's a director's loan account of £59,470. Now, a director's loan account happens to be the money which a director, or both directors, have loaned themselves from the company and still owe the company. So the company is owed £59,000 by Chris and Sarah. Right, it gets a bit complicated because by all intents and purposes, it's the same money, isn't it? It's their money, but they haven't been taxed on that, I don't think, or have they? Don't. Anyway, it's another story, right? So they loaned themselves some money. It wasn't a salary that they paid themselves, and it wasn't dividends that they paid themselves. They just gave themselves the money, right? So it goes into a director's loan account, and that money becomes available, or rather, that money becomes payable back to the company upon its insolvency, as we're going to read here. So, implications and director's obligations. If you owe money, or if you owe the company via an overdrawn DLA at liquidation, the liquidator will typically send a letter of claim asking for full repayment. Have you received that yet, Christopher? If you cannot repay, the liquidator may pursue legal action against you personally. Bankruptcy is a possible outcome if you are unable to meet the liability. Chris, £59,000 or bankruptcy. I know you can afford the 59 grand because you've whipped away £121,000 off the government, so you must have that £59,000 stashed away somewhere. Anyway, the fact of insolvency does not automatically void your debt to the company in respect of the DLA. The liquidator must attempt recovery unless it is judged uncollectible. You may have the opportunity to negotiate settlement with the liquidator depending on your personal financial circumstances. So, under UK tax guidance, if you borrow money from your company that is not salary, dividend or repayment of expenses, it is treated as a director's loan. A DLA that is overdrawn, you have withdrawn more than you have repaid or put in, represents a debt owed by you to the company. When the company goes into liquidation, that overdrawn DLA becomes an asset of the company that the liquidator must realise for the benefit of the creditors. An HMRC fact sheet states, the money you owe or the money you borrow still belongs to the company and has to be paid back even following insolvency. So this is very interesting and very concerning for you, Sarah, because as far as I can see, that isn't even a liability for the company. This is a personal liability that we're talking about, and yeah, you do have to pay it back. It states in black and white that you definitely do have to pay it back unless you cannot afford to do so. I thought you were very much quids in at the moment. Your IFAM have told us this. They said, who says they can't afford to repay? Yeah, well, repay it then, isn't it? Now, notwithstanding all the mounds and mounds of company debt, which Sarah claims they're not liable for, but clearly they may well be, we're going to delve into further personal debts. Now, Sarah has one CCJ here, which is £1,240. This is personal money, which is owed. Then we move on to Chris, and he owes this CCJ of £267. Chris has one or two more CCJs than Sarah does. His next one is of £765. Then the next one is £310, followed by another little one of £282. The next is of just £286, and the final one is whopping. It is a mammoth £3,000, and that means a total between them, liability-wise, of personal debts is £6,150 that they just decided not to pay. They decided not to pay because, believe me, these CCJs, they don't just come and turn up one day and they say, right, you're getting a CCJ. No, it takes months and months and months of sending letters and being ignored, and sending letters, sending debt collectors, and then going to court. At some point, Chris has seen these letters saying, you're due in court on such and such a day. That's like, what? How many was that? 6-7 times that they've been summoned to court and just ignored. That's ridiculous. You don't not see 7 times you've been told to go to court. It's not a thing, right? Genuinely, it's not a thing. Anyway, that's a lot of personal liabilities. It means they're never ever going to get a mortgage ever again in the UK. So best keep hold of that house, innit? But aside from that, we've uncovered a lot here that they do actually owe, like a lot, and that they're likely not going to get away with, unless the HMRC are very lenient towards them, which, to be fair, I don't think they should be lenient towards them, because they've done it intentionally, and I don't think that you should be able to do it intentionally and get away with it, right? Otherwise, you should allow everybody to get away with it. There you go. I said it. I said what I said. So any of those IFAM who want to be like, oh, the Inghams, they can afford to pay it, and then just don't. Or how do you know that they owe the money? Or how you don't know how business works? You don't. Yeah, I've got an IQ of 59, and I heard Sarah Ingham, who's got an IQ of 79, and she told me that they don't have to pay it because that's how business works. Yeah, no, that's not how business works. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. I've enjoyed bringing attention to it again. And please give this video a massive thumbs up and comment all of your thoughts about it down below, because I know you've got thoughts about it. And subscribe to the channel if you'd like more, as this story will rumble on and on and on and on.